Good morning, everybody. Well, if you've been following the news, you probably think we are killing it over there in Iran. The problem is exactly the opposite is true. Israel is being leveled as we speak. They are essentially out of interceptor missiles. Iran is choosing targets at will. The entire world economy hangs in the balance. And I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this so you can be prepared for the shock of the news that we are about to hear. Things are shifting, and we are literally losing with Iran. We've met none of our objectives, and we have now bowed to the world for help. Help we said we didn't need to secure the Strait of Hormuz. We have no solution to a rogue missile. We have no solution. And if even one tanker goes down in the strait, it will block the channel. You see, it isn't just 20 to 30 kilometers across the strait. There's a channel that runs down through the center of it, which is even much narrower. You start lighting ships on fire and sinking them, it will literally block the strait. Now, we're going to be a bit all over the place today because I want to give you a feel for what's really happening that our mainstream is not covering, because you need to be prepared for the changes that are coming. Now, the reason why Trump, I believe, is trying to draw other ships into the strait, I believe it's a strategy to force other countries into the war against Iran. It's a trap. Any ship entering the strait will be a sitting duck, which is why our own warships won't even go into the strait. It's like sending the first person into a burning building, right? It's the sacrifice. Cover. Deflection. And he's hoping that Iran will fire on those other country ships, drawing them into the war. That's the strategy. Now, I don't believe Iran will make this mistake. We're going to go over Iran's restraint in all of this, because they've actually been restraining themselves. Yes, they are trading targets for targets as Israel escalates. But in the beginning, they weren't taking out Israel's desalination plants and infrastructure. It wasn't until theirs was hit first. All of this is starting to feel like a huge controlled demolition. Now, I believe that even if Iran doesn't sink any of the boats, any of these battleships coming through from different countries, if they end up coming, which they probably won't because they've all denied Trump's request. But if one of them did get hit or sunk, I believe that would be a false flag to try to force the scenario of drawing other countries into the war. Now, Iran is allowing the free flow of oil through the strait for its allies, which include Russia and China. Let's get into some of these stories. And that's to be expected. But wow, we didn't change the regime. We didn't get their uranium. None of our objectives were met. And every leader that we kill in Iran will simply create another million enemies of America. And I'm slowly coming to the realization that the only way to end this is if Iran just magically wakes up one day and says, okay, we're done. Or if Iran is completely annihilated with nuclear weapons. 95% 3 million people. It would be the greatest genocide ever. In other words, there's no way to win this because you can't get all the missiles out of Iran. Even if one got through and took out a tanker, it still shuts down the strait. We have no solution. They have limitless arsenals, all within range of the strait. We can't get them all. We'll go broke trying to get them all. Is this why Trump increased the defense or war budget, now we have to call it? He already knew that they were going into to bomb Iran. They needed the money for the ordnance and the war machine. So what was the purpose of the negotiations? There was no purpose. We already knew what we were going to do. And unless you kill every last man, woman, and child in Iran, the strait will never be safe. Is this what they're going to do? Now, as this goes on, there are theories out there that nukes are fake. And every day that this goes on, I'm starting to maybe agree with you. Why? Because Israel is being leveled. If there was ever a time for them to fire a nuke at Iran, it would be now, right? They are being leveled and they're hiding the damage. Wow. Now, even Trump's messaging is melting down as he now says that he bombed Iran out of habit. He says it's almost like we do it for habit, but we also do it for some very good allies that we have in the Middle East. This is a complete meltdown in Trump's messaging. He's all over the place. This is indefensible. And those who try to defend it are simply out of their minds. Psychopaths. You know, Pete Hegseth was bragging about how they went into Venezuela and plucked Maduro out. And he used the term F around and find out. Well, we are getting our butts handed to us by Iran right now. The strategy of how they dealt with this attack, I've never seen anything like it. Now, as we move through the facts of this war, what makes all of this very chilling is that because of how our media is controlled by Israel as well, Americans have no idea that we are losing. They have no idea. We're essentially just wasting ordnance, killing innocents in Iran, and hitting very few of their targets because they're all underground. We have no solution. And this is a sobering thought that the media and social media AI control apparatus are so powerful that this situation could literally degrade into a literal invasion on American soil, and people would still be fast asleep and deluded, watching the foreign invaders crawl across the border or warships off of our coasts. Now, that's not the case in this instance, but if it were the case, the media apparatus is so strong, people would have no clue. Now, we aren't even close to done yet. I've got a lot of evidence to show you today, a lot of stories. I've got some words from a guy that they just killed in Iran, an X feed talking about a false flag here on U.S. soil, that would be a false flag by Israel because they have no intention of carrying out any attacks on our soil, because they actually care about our citizens here and they know that it's not us doing all this. Literally, he said this hours before they killed him. I'm also going to give you some recommendations on, I rarely do this, but there's a guy I've been following that is very, very good war coverage. He shows satellite imagery. He's showing everything. The truth. that we're not getting from our mainstream media. We're going to go over that today. So this will be a good summary video. I'm not going to get too technical, but this will be a good summary video of where we're at with this war. And yes, we are losing. Now, what else is going on? Well, I'm going to show you assets that we lost all across the Middle East. Bases, THAAD missile systems have been destroyed, as well as some of the damage that Israel has sustained. And again, if Iran wanted to, they could make Israel uninhabitable with the destruction of their energy sector, which they are now actually doing because they're returning fire from their energy sector being destroyed first. At first, all of that was hands off. If they really wanted to destroy Israel, they would have went straight for that in the very beginning to cause chaos with the civilians, but they had restraint. So now you're beginning to see Iran never wanted to wipe Israel off of the face of the earth because they could have done it in the opening barrages. They held back from targeting Israel's civilian infrastructure until theirs was hit first. Now, the Trump delusion continues. Here's more news. This bizarre monologue that Trump says that he actually knew the future about 9/11, and he knew the future of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. Again, if we follow this through, the logical conclusion of how to deal with the closing of the strait, the only logical solution, the only strategical solution would be to nuke every last man, woman, and child in Iran. But they know that that still wouldn't solve the problem because that's just Iran. What about the rest of the Middle East and people that sympathize with Iran? Now, they would be weakened, obviously, but the attacks would never stop. It's a holy war. So here we are. We are losing. Now, this is crazy. Trump says he predicted 9/11 a year before it happened. As he says he knew the future. This kind of fits in and dovetails into what we've been talking about. Trump being this time traveler. Now, the way he's talking about it actually is a little bit more cryptic. Of course, he knew what the psyop of Osama bin Laden was going to be before 9/11. He was clued in on it. And we had suspected this for at least several years now. I told you Trump must have known what was going on with 9/11 before it happened. So it's kind of a self-admission here. And now, how did we come to that conclusion? Well, his comments in the aftermath of 9/11 were just too creepy, saying that his building was now the tallest in the New York skyline after 3,000 people just died. That's pretty sadistic and psychopathic thinking, isn't it? That's like telling someone who lost a child that you now have a bigger family than them. That's about pretty much what he said. And of course, Trump knew the Strait of Hormuz would be closed because, again, it's as if he is intentionally trying to crash the world economy to distract from the Epstein files. And here's where you have to wonder, what exactly did they have on him to where he's willing to destroy the entire world economy? What kind of dirt did they have on Trump? This is really something to see, isn't it? This crash out. And it's bizarre because it's as if God is winning the spiritual battle against Trump through the revelations, some of the revelations in our truth community and on this channel. Because Trump is literally melting down with his messaging as he confirms over and over again the judgment that has been revealed It's very sobering, isn't it? Wow. Now, let's read his comments here. Let's see. Let's go back here. Okay. He says, I predicted Osama bin Laden would knock out the World Trade Center. I made that prediction a year before. I said, you'd better get him. He's a bad guy. So what he's essentially saying here is he was part of the predictive programming, because anybody with a brain knows that Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with two buildings coming down in New York City. Let's continue. He said his assessment of bin Laden came after watching him in an interview. I watched him be interviewed this one time and said he's a bad guy. He added, President Clinton actually had a shot at him, but he didn't take it. I'm not blaming him for it. He then pointed to a specific source for his claim 1 year before exactly I wrote in a book. You can even check, Trump said. So they checked, and it wasn't as specific as Trump said. But then he goes on to talk about Iran. Unbelievable. Now, more strategical errors as Netanyahu is missing in action. Nobody knows where he is. There's really no real evidence of him being alive. Here's some screenshots from what people think is an AI video of him. It's kind of hard to tell, but really he hasn't been seen in over a week. He's been missing all of the security meetings, which he normally heads. He's just not there. And the Internet Collective of Investigators have ripped the fake videos of him to shreds. There are disappearing rings. His disappearing wedding ring disappears and reappears on his finger. He's at these bizarre locations where this is just not typical. So he's missing the security meetings, but yet he's cruising around out in the countryside of Israel like nothing's going on. You don't hear any missile fire or anything going on. I mean, this is just a really bad optic for him as well. While his soldiers are dying on the front lines, he's out here gallivanting and having cups of coffee like nothing's going on. I mean, think about the morale of the soldiers. This is really weird. It's a bad look. And it's a complete implosion of strategy. They're just losing it. They're crashing out. And the American mainstream media is covering none of this. We get a sanitized version of small and outdated Israeli victories and none of the truth about how strongly Iran is taking it to both the U.S. and Israel in this fight. Now, here are a couple of good Facebook posts that really summarize the truth about the statistics of this war and really puts it in perspective. We're going to get into the technical of this. This is pretty crazy. So this guy is Chuck, CCLLC. What will Trump do? Now that Trump has lost his little incursion war, what will he do? Iran completely wiped out Trump's forward area air defense command and control system, FAD, and radar, basically leaving all 26 military bases blind to incoming drones and missiles. Most of those bases are pretty useless now. Iran has pummeled those bases over and over, grinding them into the ground to the point where many of them have been abandoned except for skeleton crews. And while they still may have some of their Patriot anti-missile systems intact, it's basically useless against cheap plastic and wood drones. It's quite embarrassing for the military. Now, as I'm talking about this, it's not only loss of life, but the amount of money that we just flushed down the toilet. You guys, we are into the hundreds of billions of dollars in damage right now. That could have solved our food prices in America. That could have shored up Social Security. That could have allowed people who need food stamps to retain them. Think about that for a second. Now, let me keep reading here. Israel is getting pummeled like never before since those radar bases were taken out. You don't fire $1 million missile at a $30,000 drone. We kind of already knew that. Now, there was another THAAD system that they got from South Korea. That's been destroyed as well. So they're bringing all of our assets into the region, and Iran just keeps destroying them. We have no solution except to try to exhaust all of Iran's missiles. And Trump literally admitted that he had no idea they had this many missiles. So he's throwing good after bad, hoping they run out, and Iran just simply has not run out. Bad strategy. Let's keep reading. Iran has tens of thousands of these missiles and drones and can send dozens at a time, and they have much deadlier weapons they haven't even touched yet. The more Trump bombs Iran and targets schools, police stations, and hospitals, the more united and defiant Iran gets. I think it's best for Trump to declare victory and bring everyone home before this little incursion gets too out of control. Trump is bombing Iran 24/7, and all it's doing is pissing Iran off. But even if Trump stops his attack and backs off, Iran says they aren't done until their neighboring Arab nations tell the USA to leave their military bases for good, and the USA pays reparations for the damage caused by this illegal war on them. This was a before and after. This is actually like a $3 to $4 billion radar, and he shows a before and after of the satellite imagery, and it's completely destroyed, flushed down the toilet. Now, what else is going on? Well, this guy that they just killed, this is an Iranian, I forget his title, but just before they killed him, March 15th, and he died like this day or the next day, he literally put up this X post saying, "It has been reported that what remains of Epstein's network is working to prepare a conspiracy aimed at fabricating an incident similar to 9/11 attacks in preparation for accusing Iran of being behind it. The Islamic Republic of Iran categorically rejects such plots and terrorist operations on principle and does not wage war against the American people." So if this happens on our soil, it will be a false flag. The next day, they killed this guy. Unbelievable. So, incoming false flag, get your thing now. What else do we have? Let's see if this loads here. I wanted to show you guys this guy. Where'd he go? I'll put a link to his post. He is a very good channel to follow. Ian Carroll, you guys have probably heard of him. Cancel this. And I'm going to put this link to this video here of him talking about what's going on with Iran. Very, very good war coverage. I'll put a link to that for you guys as well. All right, let's check in with you guys and move on to this bizarre Epstein sighting in Florida. Now, I believe what they're doing here is essentially trolling us, as I believe what's really happening here. Let's get into that here. Let's see, let's find that link. Oh, let's finish up with this war coverage first, because I don't want to get all over the place today. Iran has reached a low but stable level in the launch of suicide UAVs and cruise ballistic missiles, averaging, this was 12 hours ago, you guys, averaging 62 drones and 28 missiles per day. So we have not destroyed their capabilities. We are being lied to. China ignores Trump's Hormuz request as the Iran war deepens. and his Beijing trip slips. Now, the reason why this is the case, why China will not, help us, is because Iran is already letting the Chinese ships through. They're an ally. I don't know why my pages aren't loading up. Sorry about that, you guys. See if this page loads up. Hopefully we're not buffering. I think we've come under electronic attack. Let's try this again. Might have to close some of these windows. So, make a long story short, essentially, China is already able to get through, so they don't need to do anything. Now, there are rumors, and I cannot confirm this, that Taiwan is now surrounded. Oh boy, here we go. Electronic attack here. Let's let all these tabs catch up, and I'll just hang out in the chat with you guys until this gets fixed. The control of information is real. Let's do this. That might fix it. Okay, let's close this one too. See if that helps. Let that catch up. All right, good morning, everybody. All right, let's get into this Epstein sighting. Let's try at least. Holy smokes. Man, they just like blocked us. Let's see here. What's going on? Whoa. Let's see if we can figure out this buffering, you guys. It says we're connected. Huh. Wow. Try this. All right, there you guys are. Whoa. They shut us down. You guys there? Crazy. Can you guys hear me? What was the last thing you guys heard? Okay. Testing. Can you guys hear me? Whole computer locked up. I think they just threw out the whatever they do to shut down channels, right? Okay, let's let this catch up. I'll get a confirmation. We'll continue on with this, you guys. You got to tell me the last thing you heard before we got hit. All right. Yeah, we are literally, this is the end of the world economy as we know it. And I'm not grandstanding, you guys. Already, the supply of oil has been interrupted. So at the least, there'll be major disruptions for months and maybe even years before everything gets back on track. The oil infrastructure is literally being destroyed, and it's as if they're doing it on purpose. Infrastructure that takes 5 to 10 years to rebuild is now being destroyed as we speak. Now, yes, we have our own oil here, but the price of oil is set by OPEC. That's why our gas prices are going up, even though we have our own oil supply. And we still purchase oil from other countries, or at least we used to, even though we have our own oil supply. So that's weird, right? All right, let's see if we're okay. Uh-oh, now it says chat disconnected again. See what's going on here. Wow, censorship is real, you guys. What is going on? Did they take down the stream? Let's try to refresh. It says we're still live. Okay. Can you guys hear me? This is insane. I've never had this level of disruption before in a live stream, you guys. Thanks for sticking with me on this. We'll get through this. Okay, you got to tell me the last thing that you heard. Okay, good. Now, what was the last thing you heard? Yeah, they're electronically blocking the stream. Okay. You heard everything. Okay, good. Whoa, that was crazy. Some of you were kicked out of YouTube totally. We actually had quite a few people tuning in too. So the last thing you heard was Epstein. Okay, good. I was going to show Epstein the convertible. Yes, okay, good. Awesome. I think we're good. So check this out, you guys. Now, this is obviously trolling. I don't think this is really Epstein, but look at this. In Florida. Look at this guy. Now, if you were this guy, knowing what's going on with Epstein, let's see if we can play this.
Epstein is alive.
What the?
Epstein is alive.
That's crazy. So this guy says Epstein is alive. Epstein out here in South Florida is what the accompanying text on the clips read. The footage has since gone viral, racking up thousands of likes since it was posted. Dude has to get this constantly, one commenter noted. Time to grow a beard. So what's this about? Well, I believe it's gaslighting. It's gaslighting. They're essentially what they're doing is they're telling us that they can do whatever they want. This could be a clone of Epstein. It could be anything. I wouldn't put it past them. But think about it. This guy obviously knows he looks exactly like Epstein. Is he really going to drive around South Florida with his top down, knowing his head could be blown off because of the outrage? This is another honey trap, isn't it? Wow. Now, let's get into some other news today. Trump just canceled the licenses for immigrant truckers. This is going to take effect very, very soon here. And apparently, I think I looked this up, and it does affect H-1B visa holders. The new FMCSA rule, effective 2025, early 2026, significantly restricts commercial driver's licenses eligibility to only U.S. citizens, green card holders, and specific visa categories, with some sources indicating H-1B holders are still eligible, while others suggest a broader crackdown on non-citizen truckers. Wow. The new rule limits who can hold a CDL, targeting asylum seekers, refugees, and DACA recipients. 200,000 drivers. Now, I guess the good news of this is that this will create 200,000 new trucking jobs. So if you just got your CDL license, it's probably open season right now. And because they're desperate, they might even be paying top wages. So, interesting. 200,000 trucking jobs, these cancellation of these licenses for immigrant truckers. Now, if you hadn't heard by now, things are heating up in Cuba. I did see a couple of you mention Cuba in the comments, in the chat. Trump is now vowing to take Cuba, as essentially there's a complete and total blackout in Cuba because they've run out of oil. Look at this. Could you imagine living in Cuba right now? So it is already at the level of a humanitarian crisis. And if this continues, this will be what is tantamount to another genocide. You see, here's the thing. Dictators don't suffer from embargoes. The people suffer from embargoes. Just by sheer definition of the numbers and who's in power. The critical error that we keep making in attempting these embargoes is that we forget that the regime simply need to communicate the reason for the suffering to the people. And what does that do? It just, in turn, creates more nations of people that hate us. This embargo's never worked. Every act of aggression around the world that disproportionately affects lower and middle class citizens. Wow. This makes us less safe as Americans because we can't afford to send our children to safer schools. We can't afford increased security details. And our government goes around and makes our country and the world less and less safe for us. And they have the money to stay safe, don't they? They then weaponize the fear that they've imposed on us by their actions. They weaponize it with even more restrictions on us, more rules, less privacy, and things just continue to degrade. Now, if you hadn't heard, top counterterrorism official, this guy Kent, resigns over the Trump-Iran war. He says Iran posed no imminent threat. Joe Kent, if you hadn't heard this story already, he resigned. Now, of course, Trump just blew him off. The guy even wrote a letter to Trump. It says Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby, he said in the post. He resigned, and then Trump threw him under the bus, said he never liked the guy or something like that. Guess what? This guy isn't just some fly-by-night dude. He did 11 combat missions. 11! And he lost his wife to a suicide bomber, leaving 2 children behind. So I think he has some moral authority. And of course, the role he played of counterterrorism, he should know, right? He should know. And then Trump, the draft dodger, throws him under the bus, as all of the other social media pundits that back up Israel also threw him under the bus. So, 11 combat tours gives you no credibility according to these people. They don't care. Your sacrifice means nothing to them. Your opinion means nothing. Do you see how the messaging is falling apart? What Trump should have said, here's what a normal person would say. You read the room and you say, you know what? I have much respect for all of the sacrifice that Kent has given to this country. He paid the ultimate sacrifice when his wife lost her life. He could have brought that into the conversation and said, but unfortunately, we have a fundamental disagreement about the threat of Iran. That would have been the way to handle that. But instead, he completely threw him under the bus. Unbelievable. Now, this Kent guy is now going to go on to some of these social media podcasters. He's being interviewed as we speak. If you see him being interviewed, you might want to take a look at that. I think he's going on Tucker Carlson and he's going on Candace Owens. And so the world needs to see how Trump just wiped his butt with this guy and flushed him down the toilet. This is how they really feel about servicemen. They are disposable heroes. Wow. All right, let's see. I think I got a few more stories for you guys. Trump was warned of likely Iranian retaliation on Gulf allies. So he was warned could trigger retaliation against U.S. Gulf allies, despite his claims on Monday that Tehran's action came as a surprise. So Trump is basically speaking as if all this is news to him. He had no idea why all this is happening. He also accidentally called the new president of Venezuela a man. Whoa. We're under electronic attack, you guys. This is crazy. Let's see if we can refresh this page. See if it comes up for us. Okay, let's try this.
And it's going to be soon triple any other nation, and that doesn't include Venezuela, who's been great. By the way, the relationship with Venezuela has been fantastic. Millions, literally millions of barrels of oil are being taken out, and it's been a great help, and it's been to their great benefit. The president has done a really good job. We get along with him really well.
We get along with him really well. So he's now calling the president of Venezuela a man. Guys, I don't know what's going on with the internet. We're going to try to finish this up and then get off of here.
Shaking homes and spooking dogs with the energy of 250 tons of TNT. First sighted 50 miles above Lake Erie, the 17,000-pound asteroid exploded a second time 34 miles away, taking an unusual...
So this is the asteroid that hit. And wait a minute. I thought we were told like a quarter-ton asteroid could end all life on Earth. Right? Well, apparently a 7-ton asteroid, they said, hit Ohio. This is in the last 12 hours. Now, I didn't hear this thing. I'm probably a little bit too far south. 7-ton meteor identifies the likely cause of boom heard across Ohio.
40,000 miles an hour across the skies of the central U.S. today, and it came with a sonic boom, otherwise normal Tuesday morning. So what was it? CBS's Mark Strassman got answers.
Watch screen right. Something streaking over Mercer, Pennsylvania. Truck driver James Eaker had thoughts.
Holy smokes.
What the was that?
How would you describe your reaction in that moment?
He thought Iran was attacking.
Unfiltered. It took me a second to register, that, honestly, for a second there, I just thought I was seeing things.
Some type of rocket or something burning.
Holy smokes.
From Maryland to Michigan, people and cameras saw the same thing. A 7-ton meteoroid hurtling 45,000 miles per hour. They also heard something.
Something went boom earlier. It shook us over here.
It was a shockwave as atmospheric pressure exploded the meteoroid over Medina County, Ohio.
Some fragments, some tiny pieces of it, actually made it to the ground.
Bill Cook charts plummeting space objects for NASA when they're big enough. This one, 6 feet in diameter, was too tiny to track.
This could just be a small asteroid that hung out in the belt and eventually migrated here, or it could be a fragment from a larger one. We really don't know.
Online theories were more definitive. A streak of revelry on St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
A fireball this size flat.
Unbelievable. Okay, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Sorry for all the technical difficulties today. What a crazy show. Oh, man. There was another one in Texas, says Kindness. Sounds like Jethro. Maybe it's the firmament falling. Have you ever thought about that? I think about that sometimes. The Testament of Solomon, there's a passage in there that talks about basically the evil spirits and demons. They fly up to the firmament and they hold on to it, trying to listen in on heaven, is what the Testament of Solomon says. And that when they fall back down to earth, that they're the falling stars. Literally says that in the Testament of Solomon. It's pretty interesting. So what if it's pieces of the firmament falling? Who knows? Josh has a picture he needs to share. Okay, I'll take a look for that when you send it. Okay. Yes, God said he would never flood the earth again. Absolutely. Chicken Little, the sky is falling. All right. It sounded more like a crash. It did not burn up in the atmosphere, says ELOAA Ministries. Did any of you guys actually hear it? Or any of you guys from Ohio? Lucifer fell like lightning. Yep. I took a picture and there's a temple in the clouds, says Josh. Okay, go ahead and send that to me. God would never make a firmament that could break. Yeah, might be something to that. Well, my email's on my channel in the About section. From Ohio, didn't hear it, says Wake and Possum. Terminator was like lightning. Yes, in the Terminator movie, the original. And remember, he arrived in this like ball. In the ball, essentially, let's look at pictures of that. Terminator, Schwarzenegger arrives in timeline in ball. So they show Schwarzenegger, he arrives in this ball and everything is exactly cut away in the ball. It's almost like some kind of it's a sphere is what it is. And everything is just cut exactly through it as he arrives in the timeline. And it kind of reminds me of the UFO, what they're saying, the theory is as to how these UFOs move through space and time. They're kind of like regurgitating all this, aren't they? They're saying this is how the UFOs do it. They move through our atmosphere seamlessly at high rates of speed that seem to defy the laws of physics because there's no resistance. And they can do the same even under, bodies of water. And some even postulate through solid objects. They're almost interdimensional. Well, here's where the concept came from. Terminator. Ability to do this, because it's the same thing. It's like two different dimensions. One dimension inside the ball, one dimension outside the ball. And lightning is the conduit. Now, the other aspect of this that's interesting, if you didn't know this, Larry Ellison's children own the Terminator franchise now. Larry Ellison, of course, purchasing all these social media sites to control the flow of information. He also says Stargate AI will cure cancer. They'll be able to basically make programmable therapies for each individual person based on their genetics. That was alarming when he came out and said that after Trump introduced him. So there's a lot going on, you guys, but the main takeaway today is the world economy is going to change. Now, how it's going to change and what that's going to look like, I don't know the answer to that. Some people are saying that essentially, this is affecting fertilizer, world fertilizer that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. That's going to be affected. People are saying it could affect the world food supply because without fertilizer, they can't produce the food, right? So people are saying there's going to be a worldwide famine because of this, the longer that it goes on. And I'm sure at some point, Trump will try to make the case that, hey, we just need to nuke Iran and kill all these people. And he's going to try to get public support for it as things continue to devolve and degrade. He'll say, hey, we don't have a choice. They're not stopping. And he'll try to get your consent to do it. And everybody will forget that we started this. And I can imagine that there will be a lot of people that will give their consent to nuke Iran. But do we really want to kill 93 million people? I can't imagine any scenario where I would agree with that. This is all starting to feel like Gaza was the precursor. Hey, if you're going to consent to Gaza, then what's the leap to consent to annihilating all of Iran? It's like it's building up or something. Wow. So we'll see how all this plays out. As you know, I don't typically, doom on stuff like this when it comes to war, but this is different. Something's different about this, you guys. So just be prepared. You should prepare for the future and understand what could happen. I don't think we'd ever be invaded, but I can see like our prices going up. I could see the world economy shifting and the dollar being edged out. The petrodollar, the end of the petrodollar, which would essentially turn us into a third world country. So, yeah, I'm not going to open that up live on the air, Josh, because I have no idea what it is. But thanks. I'll take a look at it afterwards, and if it's applicable, I'll add it to the next show. Yep, 93 million people. Yes, this is really bad. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to pop off of here. Thanks for showing up, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.